Hit it. All right, guys, we're at Kscale Labs. Whoa. Oh, I felt bad immediately.
Oh, it's fine, it's fine. You can even kind of be more aggressive.
I never thought that we would come this close to like an ex-machina moment on my channel this soon.
Oh, I mean, I think it's like, whoa. I was at Tesla when the Optimus was getting started, and I thought it was very silly that Tesla was targeting the factories. And frankly, I think it's proving that that was a silly decision now that they've kind of cut a third of the Optimus team and are not really able to ship that many robots this year. The machine learning methods that you would use for making humanoids useful just don't really make sense in a factory setting. I think it's just Elon trying to make his factory workers scared or something. He's like, if you don't work hard, we're going to replace you with robots. So, you know.
I love how rapidly unhinged this is getting. Like, these are just free hot takes, guys.
Oh, yeah. No, I'll say whatever.
Oh, my God.
Anything for the content.
Oh, God. Yes. We're here with Benjamin Bolte, founder of Kscale Labs today. So you have an incredible house.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to show us around?
Sure. Yeah, so we all live together. Compared to the old place that we were at, which was quite a bit smaller, this one is a lot nicer. At least everyone mostly has their own bedrooms. This is our first robot. So this was the first one that we made in the garage over a few blocks away. It's like fully 3D printed and was a bunch of parts that I bought off Amazon. So my feeling was that I could do this for about, in total, I paid about 20K for all the parts. And then I had to hire a mechanical engineer to help me with it, and then was paying for rent and stuff. But it wasn't a terribly expensive thing. And after we got funding from YC, I was pretty sure that it was like within the ballpark for what I could at least prototype. And the full bill of materials is less than 10K. So that was pretty exciting to me, because the idea that you could actually have a humanoid robot for like relatively small amount of money compared to, let's say, Tesla or Figure is just pretty awesome, especially for people that really want to do things themselves. But this is not a really production grade humanoid, so it was just a prototype. This was our sort of first attempt at making a mass manufacturable robot. So this is actually all CNC'd. You can tell by the CNC traces.
Yeah.
But it's aluminum, just 6061 aluminum, but the degrees of freedom are arranged a bit differently, and then we were going to put the compute in here, but eventually just decided to, like, this was also mostly a learning experience for us to figure out how do we start to actually mass manufacture these. I went and toured a bunch of factories that build humanoids and got to learn about the best practices. And this was like 3 months that we kind of put this one together. And then we basically, from here, started working on the full version in December, AJX.
Which factories did you tour?
So most of the factories we toured were in China: Unitree, Engine AI, Booster, and AGI Bot. There's actually a few humanoid companies that have sold on the order of like 1,000 or even maybe 10,000 robots.
Right.
But none of them are in the United States. So
I see.
So my goal was actually, I wanted to have Kscale be the best-selling American humanoid company, which pretty much just means selling like 100 robots. Compared to some of the Chinese companies, the bar is really low. So we had to learn about like what people do when they actually want to scale manufacturing at an affordable price, and taking a lot of those learnings and using them for our own robot, and then ultimately open sourcing it so that we can collaborate with a lot of manufacturers in America that want to make humanoid robots. I felt like this was a just pretty cool thing to do. When we released the open source robot, the 3D printed one, a lot of people actually approached me about collaborating on us. Basically, they could see it and they could see it wasn't very good, and they were very interested in telling me why it wasn't very good and selling me their own components to make it better.
Yeah.
So I was very happy to do that. And I speak Chinese a little bit, and so.
Wait, how?
How do I speak Chinese?
Yeah.
I took Chinese in college, and then I lived in China for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
After college, just like a post-college tour.
That's sick. Let's do the rest of this interview in Chinese then.
对，我要练习说中文，因为好久我不说中文。Yeah, so this is the K-bot. The idea was basically that we wanted to have a robot that was as good as the Unitree G1, but that would be open source and would be the starting point for us to start working on building a fully autonomous robot. So put differently, I really like the idea of having a Unitree G1 in my house, walking around, doing my dishes, doing all my chores. And I wanted to build a company to do basically that. But the idea of just buying a Unitree G1 and making software for it felt pretty bad. Like I wanted to actually have a robot whose IP I controlled and who I could then go manufacture in a bunch of different places and not just be dependent on Unitree. So that was why we built it ourselves. But it's definitely a bit of a side quest to build a robot yourself instead of just buying a robot online. But the actual result is that we can sell it for quite a bit less than even Unitree can sell it for, even manufacturing it in America, which is, I think, not super obvious to a lot of people because you would think that it'd be very hard to manufacture something in America that would be Chinese prices. But in fact, because a lot of the components are basically commercial off-the-shelf components, and because it's actually not terribly difficult to manufacture, we do increase the price a little bit, but compared to the extra cost of tariffs or even just having to work with all these different vendors overseas, it ends up being more competitive. So when we sell the robot for 9K, we actually do make money. It's not like we're selling it at a loss. And the idea of selling, software onto that platform is a lot more exciting to me than selling software for Unitree robots. So.
Yeah, as I understand it, you guys do at least FATP in Texas.
Yep.
How did you guys end up manufacturing in Texas versus overseas?
Yeah, it was actually really random. So I mean, it's a Chinese manufacturer in Texas,
Oh.
but they're a Chinese publicly traded company. But after we launched the first sort of version, they reached out to us because they manufacture golf carts and also hoverboards like this. There's a mapping from hoverboards to humanoids, basically. I mean, the components are extremely similar, except this is a direct drive and this is quasi-direct drive.
Okay.
But
this is the company
this is not the company. This is a representative. Although it actually might be the company. They have all these weird subsidiaries subsidiary brands.
Yeah.
No, this is not a company. But but basically, we were building these. We had the humanoid reference design, and they have this ability to manufacture golf carts and hoverboards and all these kind of cool things with electric motors and batteries. And they have sorted out how to source all the components in a way that they're not super dependent on China, because so much of their business is in the U.S. And so they need to actually be able to sell it in the U.S. without having tariff issues. And so it was very well aligned with what we're trying to do. And so being able to actually source components from Vietnam and Thailand and then do final assembly in Texas was pretty cool. And they just bought this. They bought the Dallas Morning Post. There used to be printing newspapers, and the newspapers aren't really sold that much anymore. So they sold the factory to this golf cart company, and the golf cart company has a ton of space now for manufacturing. And so, Aaron and I visited a few weeks ago, and it was it's pretty cool. So,
That's awesome.
So this is the robot. All right, Aaron, can you do something with it?
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, it's just Unitree G1, and we've implemented the system identification for the actuators and the inference logic.
Good job. Got running.
Whoa. Yeah, so this is just a standing policy, so there's no one controlling it right now, but it's actively balancing. So it's using the IMU on the robot, and then you can kind of
Oh, cool.
yeah, it's
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
yeah.
Oh, I felt bad immediately.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. You can even kind of be more
Wow.
aggressive. It's trained with very aggressive pushes in the simulation.
It's actually, I never thought that we would come this close to like the ex-machina moment on my
Yeah.
channel this soon.
Oh, I mean, I think it's like,
Whoa.
yeah, you can kind of see it's pretty cool to play around with.
Yeah.
But so
That's wild. Thanks so much. That was an insane demo. Wow.
yeah. So to anyone that's watching at home, it does actually work. It does something. It's not just a hunk of metal.
You saw it here first.
Yeah, this probably is the first time that we've actually shown this robot doing anything on an interview. Although I don't do many interviews, so yeah, it's fully RL based control. So you'll notice it's actually only 20 degrees of freedom total, which is quite a bit fewer than a lot of other like a lot of other robots, which is part of why it's so cheap.
Yeah.
In comparison. The arms are only 5 off, the legs are only 5 off, and there's no waist offs here.
Oh.
So the battery itself is about twice the size of the G1 because we wanted to have longer battery life, but otherwise it's very similar. It's CAN bus everywhere, Raspberry Pi right now, but we have a upgraded version with a Jetson on it, and then obviously there'll be a head. We took the head off just for testing stuff, but there'll be a head on the versions that we ship to the customers.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was like basically the 6th robot that we made. So this was the first one that I felt was close enough to production grade that we could actually start selling it. But there's going to be, I think, a lot of new generations of robots coming out. And in particular, the goal with the next phase of the company is to start building the software out quite a bit more. So, right now it's just standing here, but what you really want is a robot that can kind of run like VLA models and do some like manipulation. And so it's a little shaky. But yeah, so we're shipping it with hands, and we'll ship it with like cameras, and we've tested out our own VLA models on the robot, just to make sure that it'll actually do something useful. Yeah, but the idea really is that like if we can get this as an open source platform out into developers' hands, then lots of developers will be able to also build on it themselves. And Kscale is like a tiny company. We're only 10 people, but being able to work with developers and build this in an open source community, I think is going to really help the robot get much better quickly. And I think that's kind of like the only way for us to be able to compete with much bigger companies like Unitree.
Yeah. Are you leaning or expecting and counting on being able to get the data back from the dev kit users?
I think it's up to whoever buys it, whether or not they want to help improve it for us or if they just want to use it for their own purposes. I think from the people that have bought it so far, about 80% of them actually bought the full autonomy upgrade, which is basically on our website. You can read it. It's like, this is the thing that like in 3 years, it'll be this full autonomy, like fully autonomous robot. Yeah. And you need to help us get to that point.
Yeah.
And those people I think are very, at least invested. I've talked to a few of them. They're really cool, very handsome, attractive people. Everyone that's bought it. Yeah, just incredibly cool. And yeah, I think they're pretty committed to helping us actually make it better as we've sort of working with them. It's going to be, I think, not exactly clear what the path is to get there because no one's built a fully autonomous robot before, but I think it's becoming a little bit more clear. Like once you can actually have a robot operating in your house and doing useful stuff and just being able to build some kind of end-to-end model on that, I think it'll be like the right way to get the robot to be actually useful. And we'll do it in a way that we don't have to raise $1 billion and just burn VC money until we get there. So
yeah.
And then awesome. In the end, we'll share it with the world, which is pretty cool. Like I think that this tech really needs to be open source and something that is broadly beneficial. And we're gonna, I think, build it first, and ideally we can actually then just have it like as something that lots of developers can build on top of.
Yeah. What kind of funding have you raised, and how are you able to afford like this house and this development team and all these salaries?
Everyone works for very little money. That's the main thing. But no, we raised $4 million after YC, and then we have raised another couple million to do the manufacturing. So the company that is building them for us in Texas invested in us to. They basically gave us money to give them back, which is nice. Yeah. And then we're Yeah. So now we're raising more money now because we've got, I think, enough orders to justify like a good subsequent valuation, and technically we are the best-selling American humanoid robot company, so that's pretty cool.
Congrats, Ben.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting. Some people sleep in the basement, some people sleeping upstairs. We all work in that room down there, so that's where. Some guy is Spunk, yeah. We can go show you.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I
not.
admire the grind.
Yeah, I think maybe this is the best place to start. This is but that's where my bed usually is, and then AJ's beds, and then Ali is in the closet in there.
Oh my goodness.
He's like double backed.
And you sleep here?
Most of the time, but now my wife is staying with me, so we're renting a place nearby because she doesn't want to sleep here, and our baby doesn't want to sleep here. But then we've got our
Your baby? Wait, you're a father while doing this?
yeah, I have a 8-week-old baby, so his name's Alan. He's very cute. But yeah, and then this is our whole server room. This is our random mess of wires. I don't know. It's just nice to all be in one place. So, but yeah, this is the basement. It's very cold. That's why I like sleeping down here.
That's wild.
But yeah, and then we all work in here, and
yeah.
that's we try to keep an open layout so everyone's monitors face
Oh my
inward.
goodness.
Yeah, so that's my desk.
Oh wow.
That's Ali,
Oh my goodness.
and that's Ray. Yeah, Ali's training some RL policies right now. Yeah, that's my desk.
So, guys are like 9 guys living in a hacker house? It's like,
Yeah, mostly. And then the nice thing is because it's this like single space, we can just really easily get people that want to come help us out. They can come crash here for a week or a couple weeks and just like, help us improve stuff.
Yeah.
We have like a few people that stay from other well-known humanoid companies that I won't mention because I don't think their employers would really be that happy, but it's cool to work on humanoids, and I think we've just got a good vibe, and in general the experience of being able to like do a lot of stuff and have this cool open source project that a lot of people are working on, it's just a good way to like get contributors from like other places.
stick it together. It'll make no sense that I have a laptop in my hand all of a sudden.
Oh. Yeah, that's Wesley's bedroom. That's Aaron's bedroom and JX's bedroom.
This is a sparsely used workroom?
Yeah, I don't know why we aren't having these people work up here more. It's because I wanted everyone downstairs so I can keep an eye on what everyone's working on. Oh, this is the Canadian flag. Like half of our company's Canadian, so JX bought a very big Canadian flag, and then I had to buy a much bigger American flag, but we took it down. So, yeah.
Gotcha, cool. Okay, cool. You also have like a little gantry to do more robotics in the yard. Is that what used to be a pool? And is that filled with concrete or is that a tarp?
No, it's a tarp.
Okay.
It is a pool. It just doesn't get used very much because we don't have any girls that come around very often, so it's not
It's
many.
the saddest
party-
pool party.
Pool parties wouldn't be that fun if we hosted them.
Put a skirt on the robot.
Yeah, we can't go in the water though. But
That's true. So cool, thanks.
yeah,
How much is the rent on this place?
it's $28,000 a month, so it's pretty expensive. But it was like, I mean, it's Atherton. It's the most expensive district in the world.
Yeah,
pretty
why'd
much.
you pick a house in Atherton?
Because I wanted to be near Stanford and close to investors.
Ex-machina comes from Deus ex-machina, which comes
Yes.
from God from the machine, which is just like when some convenient plot.
Yeah, I've seen
device.
Miraniki.
Yeah. So like just solve some issue. So I think it's like a 2-part thing. It's like one, this channel to help people like figure out this like challenging problem of like what to do with their careers, what to build, what's worth building. And then the other thing is like ex-machina, like a literal translation from the machine. Like I felt like very much like a cog in my time in big tech.
Oh,
So I just wanted to make this channel to produce value in a way that I thought like the community needed, but no one is doing.
That's cool.
Let me get. Ben, do you want to adjust your mic? I feel like it looks like it's like sagging, but it's probably okay. But so the back has a magnet, and then there's a clip as well, so you can use the magnet if you want.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then,
Man, it's a DJI product. DJI is really good.
yeah, I really like their stuff.
Really smart design decisions. You know, the CEO of Unitree started at DJI.
Oh my God, it's the DJI Mafia.
The Chinese hardware ecosystem is kind of broken down into different cabals or different warlords. It's the DJI warlords and the Xiaomi warlords and a third one that I remember someone saying. But basically, a lot of hardware startups either come out of one or the other, and they only work within their own sort of kingdom. They don't collaborate across kingdoms.
And like point at
Like that, yeah. All right, yeah, hit it. All right, guys, we're at Kscale Labs. Yeah, Benjamin, why don't you tell us about your incredible house and startup?
Awesome, yeah. So kscale, we're building humanoid robots, and specifically humanoid robots for developers. So I started kscale because I wanted a humanoid robot, and I figured that there was probably going to be more people like me. I had money from Facebook, and my wife wouldn't really mind if I bought something for 10K. She would complain, but it would be within the ballpark of something I could afford. And so then I was like, why can't anyone sell me something for that price? This is before the Unitree G1 actually came out. So then I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna do it myself. And that's the genesis, basically.
Amazing. So within a year of starting this company, you've already hit $1 million in orders selling your first robot. What's it like to work at such a fast-paced startup?
Yeah, I mean, so clearly other people also want to buy humanoid robots. I think it's pretty cool to see how many people are excited about humanoids right now. It's like there's this crazy enthusiasm for AI stuff, and given that it seems pretty obvious that humanoids will be a thing, I think a lot of people really want to be around for the genesis of that thing and to watch it unfold. It's like being in the Apple computer era, like the Apple II era of personal computers. Like you get to actually buy a personal computer and write software for it, make it useful, test it out around your house, and that's like how things actually happen. Is like people actually going and trying stuff out. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm excited to release a few more robots too that are going to be even lower price, just for people that might not want to afford a full humanoid. But yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah. So over the past few years, there's been this explosion of humanoid robots, as you know. Why are humanoids the right form factor?
I think people just really like humanoids. There's not a whole lot to it. Like it's some weird monkey brain thing. Like they see a humanoid and it just looks like a human, and then you can imagine what it's going to do once the software is really good. For making a robot, you need to kind of bet on one form factor. And so of all the form factors that I could bet on, I felt like humanoids would be the ones that would be the highest potential of selling a lot of robots to people. And in particular, I think for any kind of early adopter product, you need to put something in people's brain of what it can do when it's really good, just to get people on board. Even a wheeled-based robot with 2 arms is actually not going to be that useful for most people because the software is just not that good today. But if it's actually able to get people on board early, and in particular getting people contributing to this software ecosystem, I think that's going to be the right way to make progress. Like there needs to be a critical mass of people really pulling the software forward, and the hardware will come with it. That's basically why the case. But if you want the real answer, it's because I saw companies making walking robots, and I thought that I could do it too. It was kind of a challenge for myself. So, yeah.
Yeah. And what would you say to those who think that humanoid robots are a bubble?
I probably agree with them, frankly. I think when I got started, Figure had already raised $675 million, so without shipping any robots. So I agree that humanoids are a bubble. I think at the same time, Unitree is about to IPO. So clearly there is a humanoid company that can IPO. And the question remains to be seen whether or not other companies are able to follow in their tracks. I think in the United States, so far, there hasn't been any humanoid robot that has shipped, and I wanted to be the first one because I don't want it to be a bubble. I want this actually to be something that happens, but it's really hard, and I felt that a lot of people were not really appreciating the timing of what's possible today and building weird products. Like, okay, you have companies like Foundation Bot that the guy that started it was the Synapse guy, and he was literally starting it in the middle of a bankruptcy proceeding for his former startup. Of course, stuff like that happens, and then you think it's a bubble. Yeah, it's very scammy. I think Figure has got some questionable claims about their partnerships with BMW. And there's a lot of companies out there that are, I think, probably scams or probably not really dedicated to doing the engineering. But at the same time, I think we want to do really good engineering. Humanoids are a really cool engineering problem. It kind of combines all of the cool AI stuff that I like to do into one form factor. And as long as people are buying it, then it's not a bubble.
Yeah, fair enough. So if someone buys the K-Bot for $11,000, what would they be able to do with it on day one?
Yeah, today the K-Bot is basically a open source version of the G1, the Unitree G1. So it's not particularly capable. It's not going to just do all of your laundry and fold all your clothes and do your dishes, but it's a developer platform that people who want to start developing for humanoid robots can use to actually try things out. And as you've seen in the last few years, there's been an explosion of these VLA models and all this research that's gone on. And a lot of people, I think, just want a robot that they can use to try out those different things. We also have a software upgrade, the full autonomy upgrade, that is basically people who want to buy a fully functioning, perfect humanoid robot can buy that, and we will promise to deliver it to them or go bankrupt. And that includes free software and free hardware upgrades until we reach that point. And the people that have bought it, I think, are amazing, and I'm really glad that they've bet on us to help deliver that to them. So yeah, but if you're not willing to bet on us, then you should buy the base version and just do it yourself. And maybe if you do it yourself, then you can sell it to other people. I don't know.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think it'll be able to do in 5 to 10 years?
Our goal is to basically ship iterative progress. The way that I think about the humanoid is it's kind of like Tesla's FSD. So I was on FSD at Tesla for a couple of years, and I felt that the model for FSD development could probably be applied to humanoid robots, where you can imagine that once you have a fleet of robots out in the world doing stuff, then you can learn from experience and iteratively improve every single robot. So I would say that it really depends on how committed people are to actually making it good. If there's a large pool of people that really want to help us make it better, I think the progress could go quite quickly. And you could imagine a robot actually being able to clean up your house to some degree within 3 years. But we'll see. I mean, it's like betting on the self-driving era. I think a lot of people were very excited for self-driving, and it took a lot longer than people expected. But now you can take a Waymo around Palo Alto, so that's cool.
Yeah. What is your timeline prediction for when a robot will be able to do the laundry or the dishes?
I think it's never going to be some cutoff point at which point it's going to do it perfectly. It's going to be some iterative improvement. At Tesla, is like, we call it like the March of Nines, where it gets to like 99% performance and 99.9%. But I think the question is, at what point can we start to even reach some general level of autonomy? It's a really difficult mechanical engineering problem and difficult hardware, like electrical engineering, difficult machine learning. So the question for me is more about when can we actually get to the starting line. I think we're close. I think Unitree G1 feels like a good starting point for building full autonomy, and I think our robot is getting to that level. And so, yeah, we can start on it from there.
Do you think the bar for safety is higher in humanoids than is for cars, or lower?
I think it's probably lower because it's probably harder for a humanoid to kill you, but I think people will have to figure out how to interact with humanoids in a new way. Like, people know how to interact with cars already. You know that you're not supposed to go out into the road or it'll kill you. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that map humans onto humanoids, and that's going to be a problem. That's why I think it's pretty important for us to not just sell this to everyone's mom and dad. We need to start with selling it to developers that can actually reason about what the technology is capable of and be relatively safe, or at least assume the liability for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And Do you think humanoids will see mass adoption in the home or in the factories first?
Oh, I think almost certainly in the homes. I was at Tesla when the Optimus was getting started, and I thought it was very silly that Tesla was targeting the factories. And frankly, I think it's proving that that was a silly decision now that they've kind of cut a third of the Optimus team and are not really able to ship that many robots this year. So yeah, but it's basically a problem of the machine learning methods that you would use for making humanoids useful just don't really make sense in a factory setting. Like, put differently, is the reason why I would buy a humanoid is because I would like to talk to it and have this companion, and I would like it to sort of do my dishes maybe once every 10 times it tries, or just experiment with it, like have it walk around my house. And that is a much better platform for being able to get machine learning models to be good. You need to be able to start with something that it can mess up a bunch in order to actually get experience. And a factory setting is the wrong setting for that. Like, if you watch factory workers I've been to the Tesla factory, and they do stuff very precisely, and they're really not supposed to mess up. Like, if a factory worker messes up, it slows the whole line down. It doesn't make sense for humanoids, and it doesn't make sense for machine learning methods that are going into those settings. I mean, there is some machine learning at the quality assurance stage of factory production lines, but yeah, it doesn't make sense for that type of automation. I think it's just Elon trying to put people's, I think he wants to make his factory workers scared or something. He's like, if you don't work hard, we're going to replace you with robots. So,
I love how rapidly unhinged this is getting. Like, these are just free hot takes, guys.
Oh, yeah. No, I'll say whatever.
Oh, my God.
Anything for the content.
Oh, God. Yes. All right. Moving on to some hardware questions. So the robot hardware is becoming commoditized. What's the new differentiator?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty quickly, I think, going to move from a point where people buy humanoids for the hardware to a point that people buy it for the software. I think a lot more people will buy it for the software, basically, because the hardware is not that useful by itself. I don't know what the long-term differentiation will be for different humanoids. I suspect that most humanoids will probably look like ours. That's kind of why we wanted to open source it. And I think that if we can actually really set the tone for the ecosystem, I hope a lot more people do copy us. That is like, would be amazing if other engineers think ours is good enough to copy. But, I think there's going to be different sizes. Like, a full-size humanoid is just more expensive because you have this super linear correlation between the height and the price. Like, you need more expensive actuators. The actuators are heavier. That means you need more expensive actuators. Like, it's kind of compounds on itself. So the next products we're going to release are the low-cost one, which is a substantially different type of product. It's like a foot tall, but $1,000, and then a medium-sized one that's like 2.5 feet tall, but $4,000. It'll be injection molded. And so having like these three different robots, even though it'll still be humanoids, I think they're going to be very different products. And maybe like at some point we'll release like some 15-foot tall like mech or something. I don't know. Yeah, like Code Geass or something. I don't know.
Oh my God. How can U.S. companies compete with the Chinese vertically integrated juggernauts like Unitree?
Yeah, I would say that at least right now, it's really, really, really hard to compete with Chinese companies. They're extremely good, and the ecosystem is very strong. That's basically why no American companies have actually released their robots so far. I personally suspect that of the humanoid robot ecosystem, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and there's actually probably very little behind them, even though they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. That being said, I think there's no inherent reason why the same sort of things can't be built in America if you have more competition and start to actually bootstrap this ecosystem here. And put differently, I think from kscale's perspective, as an American company, the only thing that's really a risk for us is that whole ecosystem fails. Like, if there's 10 different humanoid companies, I think there's markets for 10 different humanoid robots. If they can work. Like, if there's actually meaningful progress on the software and you have robots that can automate basically any function that a human can do, the market for that is incredibly large. So there's plenty of space. From my perspective, the thing that matters is actually just getting to a point where that thing actually exists and not just getting killed off by like people making too many promises and the ecosystem collapsing. The way that the kscale is operating in the ecosystem is kind of, we're putting our reference design out there, and it's a scaffolding on which lots of other humanoid components and different people that want to get involved can actually start to build. So people that want to make their own end effectors or their own heads or their own actuators can actually just use our robot, improve on it, and sell it themselves. And that's very helpful for us because if they do it in America, it is just good for us. Like we'll be able to find engineers, we'll be able to have our own kind of benefits from this ecosystem maturing. And I would much rather see the ecosystem mature than just die.
Yeah, that's an incredibly compelling vision. What do you think is the biggest risk or obstacle to that?
The biggest risk is my fundraising ability, frankly. I'm a very terrible fundraiser, and I'm not a salesman. I didn't go to business school. I don't have a PhD, so I think insofar as kscale will live or die, it will come down to my ability to convince an investor to give us money to keep going. But at the same time, we have sales, we have revenue, and I think that we'll scrap our way there. And I'm optimistic. Yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this until we actually can sell lots of robots. Yeah.
That's awesome. Happy to do anything I can to support.
Thanks.
You've made this unique decision to open source both the hardware and the software. Is that giving away your moat?
There's not really a moat right now because no one sells any robots. It's like we're in a stage of the technology that is so far from where it should be that I don't see any point in being proprietary. And I think people that are trying to get there first and put up some barriers to other people, like put some patents in place to prevent competition, why would you prevent competition? There's no one selling anything. Like, it's like you can have your corner of the desert. That doesn't really.
That's an incredibly humble answer, like walled garden of nothing.
Yeah, it's like someone that's making a humanoid company thinks that they have an iPhone, but they have the sales of the Apple one. I mean, yeah, like you can protect your 200 sales, but is that really worth protecting? Probably not. Once there's serious revenue, I think that there's going to be a lot more competition, and I'm a pretty competitive person, so I might start making patents, but only after there's like something to compete for.
Sure. I mean, it's just a part of the game.
Yeah.
Given how commoditized humanoid hardware is, what value is there in building humanoid hardware?
I mean, it's commoditized, but it's also impossible to get. If you want to get a humanoid today, you have to go to Unitree, Engine AI, Booster, handful of other companies, Noetics. They're all Chinese companies. Or if you can try to get one from an American company, but good luck getting it. I've tried. I actually tried to buy the 1X robot. I tried to buy robots from a few people, and no one would sell it to me. So, it's weird to think of it being commoditized when you can't actually buy it. So at some level, it will be commoditized, but I think getting to that point is going to be a lot of work. And in a world where it is commoditized, I think kscale will do very well, but our goal is to get to that point.
Gotcha. So you've advertised the robot as being modular and customizable. For example, you can swap out one type of hand for another. What are the advantages and disadvantages of this modular design?
Yeah, so right now if you want to make a humanoid useful, you have to get a lot of components from China. We don't make our own hands, but we're sourcing hands from a few different vendors, and being able to actually sort of swap out the hands makes it so that we can negotiate prices quite a bit better. I think a lot of people were actually really surprised that we could sell the hand by itself for only $1,000 extra, because if you go through the normal route to get an Inspire hand, I think on Amazon it's like $12,000. So it's more expensive to buy 2 Inspire hands on Amazon than to just buy our robot and take the Inspire hands off of it. But it's because basically we can negotiate in volume for these types of things. Yeah, and the reason we can do that is because it's very modular, and we have a very good person at negotiating these sort of things. Yeah, I mean, we're still figuring out which hand to use. I'm not sold on using the Inspire hands, although it's a great hand if the Inspire people are watching. Very good hand. Thank you for helping us get it so affordably for our customers. But overall, I think we're going to have to upgrade the hardware quite a bit in the next couple of years. We're going to upgrade the end effectors, we're going to upgrade the compute, and I think being able to do that without just scrapping the whole robot is pretty cool. And that's what I think lets us promise this full autonomy thing without also promising that we're going to buy 3 new generations of robots.
Awesome. Moving on to some AI questions. What is the biggest innovation in hardware or software you think we need to unlock useful general purpose robots in the future?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me some ConvNet.
No, I'm not qualified to ask you that question.
The most important thing for any kind of really good AI system is some very large pool of data that is beneficial for making the AI system useful. And right now with robotics, there's just not a very large pool of data for robotics. Like, there are different people that have tried to make robotics data sets. They're mostly collected in labs, and I think they are not very transferable to like many new environments. Rather than me starting a foundation model company, the thing that I could do to make progress towards having a fully autonomous embodied intelligence was going to be actually building a mass producible, low-ish cost humanoid robot, getting that into a lot of different environments and collecting data from lots of those environments. And if we can do that, then I think the path towards some kind of embodied AGI is going to be a lot clearer than it is today. But it's very difficult, I think, to work in a lab and have a robot collecting data in some lab environment and have that data be anywhere near the volume or quality that you would care about collecting if you wanted to really make something useful in the real world.
Gotcha. And with that data, do you think it's just a matter of scaling it up, like how ChatGPT was trained, or do you think that we need a fundamental breakthrough?
Yeah, I mean, I like Ilya Sutskever's analogy of ChatGPT data as this fossil fuel of language models. And I think the recent hype around reinforcement learning for language models or reinforcement learning for these agents is probably a little overblown. I haven't seen anything that has really conclusively demonstrated that there's scaling laws, and I think people are hyping this up as if there is, but I don't know. I've done a lot of RL stuff before. It's really painful, and I think it's pretty... I don't know. There's the other side of this is that there's the Jan LeCun's cake analogy, that the argument about just bits of information from different techniques is pretty compelling to me too. With language models, I think we've kind of capped out the amount of data we can just get from the internet. And with robotics, I think there's an open question of whether or not this internet scale data transfers to a robot. There's a lot of people trying, like train a model on video, figure out if you can get that model to transfer to an embodiment. I think there is actually some interesting methodological work there to do. I really like the sort of Genie style approach where you can learn these latent action embeddings, but it's not clear. And I think at least for me, I would rather figure out how to just get a crap ton of robotics data, like build some kind of internet for robotics that is going to be the place to get more fossil fuel.
Does smarter AI mean that the hardware and sensors can be dumber? And how do you think about leaning on this expectation versus designing more sophisticated hardware?
It's interesting. I have some anecdotes from Tesla about this. Actually, so when I was at Tesla, the first project I worked on at Tesla was monocular depth estimation. So this is, from the camera, I predict per pixel depth. And the way that we trained this model was using Lidar. So we had some cars in the wild. We had these ground truth vehicles. We put the Lidar next to the camera, and the cars would drive around and collect this Lidar data. We would reproject the Lidar onto the camera space and use that to supervise this monocular depth estimation model. Elon did not know this. I got put on this project with 3 other guys, and then a week later, 2 of them got fired for unrelated reasons. So it was just me and my friend working on this. And my friend, he's a very cool guy, but he was called into Elon's office one day to explain the monocular depth estimation model. And he had to explain how we're collecting this data. It was using Lidar, reprojecting it. And Elon got really pissed, to the point that my friend was so scared he was going to get fired. He had this very distinctive jacket he used to wear, and he had to take it off and put it away so that Elon wouldn't recognize him again. It was just cool NASA patches. So he was really scared. Yeah, Elon got really mad because he had an intervention. We didn't stop using Lidar though. So that was the interesting thing. We just stopped telling him about it. So basically, and we started using it more for some of these additional models. We had this cool voxel occupancy model that we trained, and that model was trained completely with Lidar. We project the Lidar points in through this 3D voxel space. I even wrote some CUDA kernels to intersect the voxels and determine which ones were unoccupied. It was pretty fun project. We just didn't mention it anymore. And so I think that basically the idea for me is you kind of need to do whatever makes sense as an engineer. And I think being really puritanical about the right engineering approach doesn't really lead to the best results. We need to ship a robot. That robot needs to be pretty low cost. So we're not going to put a ton of special hardware on it. We're not going to put Lidars on it. We're not going to put other stuff on it. But insofar as we want to make the AI models much more capable, we need to figure out how to do that. We might collect Lidar data, we might do some kind of interesting stuff, and at the end I think it'll try to bake it all into one neural network and run it on the device.
Two main strategies for training robots have emerged: learning by imitating human demonstrations such as teleoperations or motion capture, and learning from trial and error such as in simulation with reinforcement learning. Which approach are you betting on?
Yeah, I think we're betting on probably neither approach really working in the long term. I think that to get to really useful robot autonomy, we're probably going to have to come up with something new. I'm kind of betting that there's going to be some new approaches that emerge in the next few years that are going to make the path quite a bit more obvious. But I haven't seen any robotics AI models that seem really compellingly good to me. Besides just collecting a bunch of data and training a big end-to-end model, the most exciting thing for me is the multimodal models with action embeddings. So trying to learn these controllable video generation models, but some version of that rather than being generative is more discriminative. So if you could have like basically a latent space rather than trying to generate the full action, like the full video space, that would be pretty cool. Like at Facebook, there's this paper V-JEPA that I think that type of discriminative model, but with some kind of action space, I think that would probably transfer really well to robot embodiments, and I'm really excited about that. But insofar as like collecting data for training robot models today, I think I'm more excited about stuff that's cool experiences, like stuff that I would be excited to use my robot for, and having a robot that can like mirror you is a cool experience. I think having a robot that you can teleoperate is actually also a cool experience. Like being able to actually put a robot in your friend's house and look through the cameras with your VR headset, move the hands around, like mess around with stuff in that environment. I actually think that's a really fun experience to have, and I think that would by itself unlock a lot of really cool applications from people that are able to try it out. So yeah, I don't personally believe in any of the ML approaches. Even I think VLA models I think are mostly hype, but I'm actually really excited about large multimodal models, especially with action embeddings.
So if I ask ChatGPT to make a sandwich, it can describe the steps. Why can't a robot execute that same plan in the physical world? And what makes robotics particularly hard?
Yeah, people have thought about that problem a lot. I think there's some philosophical Plato's cave thing going on. Like your LLMs are imagining the experience of making a sandwich. They get to see like bits and pieces of what like the quality of making a sandwich is like, but I wouldn't pretend to reason about what ChatGPT is thinking. It probably has its own very complex thoughts, but the paper that's kind of dealt with this most directly is Seikan. So you have this model that tells a thing what to do, and there's a separate model that has affordances for those actions, and it tries to translate those actions into real actions, or if it can't be done, it'll say like that's not a real action. Seikan is a very cheesy paper in my opinion, and if you've ever taken a self-driving car or FSD, those types of models, the interventions that you have to have on those models are usually actually a lot more reasonable. Like you can actually put yourself in the shoes of the model and see like, oh, I understand why you did that a lot more than you could with ChatGPT sometimes. So there's probably something different about training on video data and action data than there is about training on text.
So with these robots being sold as dev kits, will they be able to self-improve from the data that they collect in the wild?
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. So actually we want to ship the robot with the ability to have OTA updates. So you're not just like getting a robot and then having to manually write the code. So most of the excitement I think for actually owning a robot is going to come from every time you have a software update, your robot will download it, it'll try it out in your environment, you can try it out. Like probably the first time you unbox the robot, it's not going to be that good, but maybe a couple months later, you're going to get some update where it has some, waifu speech-to-speech model on it, and you're like, oh wow, this is so useful. I was so lonely before. Now I get to talk to my robot. So yeah, I would say like that's kind of the experience we're going for, is these kind of cool software updates. Immediately speaking, the things we're going to ship are going to be better VLA models, better speech-to-speech models, and maybe cooler RL policies. Probably like some cool, robust standing up policies is pretty important. Yeah.
That's exciting, like kind of like raising a kid and seeing it grow in real time. Yeah.
Yeah, you're raising a kid, but the kid is the new human technology.
Yeah.
Like, I think I kind of like I want to put myself in the shoes of the guy that was around when, like in 1977, when the Apple II came out and got this Apple II, and it was probably pretty useless at the time, but fast forward a few years and there's all of this awesome software that people have written for it. You have like the experience of using a word editor for the first time, if you had only used a typewriter, must have been freaking crazy. And you take it all for granted because now, that technology is just something that most people have grown up with. But I think if you're living through the evolution of new technology, you should just appreciate it and see it for the beautiful thing that it is. And I just think that that's what people that are early adopters love about new tech. Like a good example is at Tesla with the FSD. Like every time we would ship a new FSD update, we would get people making YouTube videos about like their interventions, how the new FSD model would perform in their drive, and how the FSD is getting better or worse, and they would tell us, this was better. And today I think FSD is actually really, really good. And so people that were around in the early days just, they were excited because they could also see what it would look like, or they could imagine what it would look like, and they were excited to get to that point. And I just think that, like, at least for me as an engineer, there's nothing more beautiful than that. It's just like the idea that people really want to see the world get better and they want to see this engineering stuff happen is what makes it possible to even like build something new. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks, right? Like for all my Seattle viewers, if you're not going to have a kid, don't get a dog, get a kscale robot.
Yeah, if you can't meet anyone in Seattle because it's too rainy. I started my career in Seattle. I actually grew up in Washington.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. I guess I'm sure the state is proud to have you.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm so happy to be in California.
Trader. Now for some last few questions on career advice.
Sure.
So with what you've learned since founding Kscale over the last year, what would you do differently if you were to start again?
Yeah, I think if you're going to start a startup, you need to be really ruthless really early, or the startup will fail. I would say that if I had started Kscale after only working at Facebook, Kscale probably would have died by now. But because I got to be at Tesla and see people get fired for performance reasons, I think I could make better decisions. I probably should have made more of those decisions sooner. Being more decisive would have been pretty helpful. But yeah, I think if you're going to start a startup, you should be pretty ruthless. And also, I think if you're going to do anything, startup or otherwise, I think you need to give 100% to it. There's really no point in doing anything that you're not going to give 100% to. So like my first job at Facebook, I was working on content moderation. I was a mecha Janny, and the content moderation models were interesting from a theoretical perspective, but it wasn't the thing that I really got up being really excited for. Besides, I liked working at Facebook because I got to make a ton of money, and that was always nice. But basically, I transitioned from there almost as soon as I could into FAIR, which is the AI research team. And even though FAIR was not the best place to climb the career ladder at Facebook, and I was working a lot more. Actually, my interview for FAIR, I basically worked 100-hour weeks for a month to actually get into FAIR. But I just loved it so much more. And it was the best decision that I ever made to be able to go and do that, because I got to do the thing that I could spend a ton of time doing. No one would need to pay me to do it, although it was nice to be paid. And that just compounds so much. If you're like getting started in your career and you're just too afraid of doing the thing that you love because it would be giving up on something that's more optimal for your career growth or something like that, I think you should just suppress that fear and go for it. Because if the thing you love is not like making baskets or something stupid, if you're an engineer, so presumably the thing that you love is something that will make a lot of money if you do it really well. If you're like the best in the world at it, then the only thing you have to do is just get to be the best in the world at it. And that's actually not too hard, because not that many people really want to work 100 hours on things. And so it's like, you just go and work really, really hard on something, you'll be the best in the world at it. And if that happens, then you can get paid for it.
Did you have to fire some people from Kscale?
I fired a lot of people. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
No, I fired more people than there are at the company now.
Oh, wow.
Good.
What's the hour count to survive the cut?
There's no necessarily hour count, I would say. Firing people is not an easy thing. Startups don't have a ton of cash, and we're building something really hard that's pretty expensive to build, so I needed to be pretty ruthless with having the quality bar for the average engineer be pretty high. I don't think anyone that is still here would wonder why I fired someone. I don't think you should fire people just to be spiteful. Yeah. I think you should fire people because they are not good for the company, and the company is not going to survive if they're there anymore. Yeah. So that's kind of how startups work. Put differently, I don't think it should be a surprise to anyone that gets fired why they're getting fired. It just is like, if the culture is at a certain bar and you're operating at a high bar, and it's just some people aren't cut out to meet that bar, and so then it's,
What kind of engineer are you looking for when hiring?
I try to hire people that are better than me at something, and I think I'm a pretty good engineer, so I that's kind of my bar. And humanoids are a pretty multidisciplinary problem, so there's a lot of different things that you could be better than me at. I think on a cultural level, everyone living in a house is a good filter for people that are good cultural fits, because you wouldn't move and do this if you weren't really committed to actually going for it. Again, it's really hard. That's kind of my bar. The only rule of kscale is just don't be stupid. Everything else can be kind of inferred, I think. As long as you're the type of person that is able to break down engineering problems effectively and has a mentality of wanting to go and do that, I don't think there's any required experience that you should have if you want to do what we're doing.
So what does it take to build a humanoid robot from scratch?
Like a very high degree of neuroticism, persistence, and trying to figure out how to make stupid bullshit stop happening. It's kind of like the Thanos glove of engineering in a way. Like, you have mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, firmware, and machine learning. Like, you're doing a bunch of different things, and they all fit together in important ways. So the root cause of a bug could be something across anywhere in that stack. Yeah, there's not any roadmap to doing this, especially doing it at a low price point with a team that's tiny. And I mean, if you were to do it today, I would say go to our GitHub and download some stuff, and then you can check the CAD models. You just copy what we did, but doing it the first time, I think, is pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully it gets easier. Yeah.
Yeah, with how hard this is, and given the level of dedication that you have to this company, how did you decide to become a father at the same time?
Oh man, my wife and I, my wife is a neurosurgeon, so she's also really crazy busy. Oh my God. And she was working 100 hours a week, I was working 100 hours a week, and I felt that, I think people make a lot of excuses for not having kids, and I find those excuses mostly bullshit. I guess, like, I have a post, after the fact view of this, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think people are really, okay, maybe I'm just going to be an absentee father, and like, it's going to be, yeah. But I don't think so. I spend time with my baby now. And yeah, my wife is a huge trooper. She was pregnant while operating, literally, like, up until the Friday before she delivered, she was still in the operating room, standing on, and she was just like here. She couldn't even reach the table practically, but so she's a badass. Also, she was living in New York the whole time too, so she was kind of doing it all on her own. Gotcha. So if anything, the question to ask is, how did I convince my wife to put up with this type of behavior? And the answer is, I don't know, man. I must be the new Steve Jobs.
Must be.
I am just very convincing.
What is your advice for people wanting to get into the robotics industry?
Yeah, I think, like, you should just do things. Like, anyone that's an engineer, you make money for a couple of years. You're basically set for life. Like, you don't really need to make $400,000 forever. Like, at least for me, I felt like at some point I paid off my student loans. I didn't need to have money for rent or house. So I was just like, well, I'm just going to start doing things. And then marry a neurosurgeon, you're set for life. So I would say, like, you should just people should just do things. I don't think there's a lot of advice on how to do it. Like, if you're smart, you can figure it out, and just have a high tolerance for just trying things. Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time in this incredible interview, Ben.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, man.